The House of Commons is back after nearly 6 weeks away, and the Liberals opened the day with announcements aimed at relieving pressure on the housing supply. Plus, they renewed their pressure on the Competition Bureau to hold grocers' feet to the fire. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are blocking key proposals of the Liberal plan until there are more carbon tax carve-outs. As the opening day of Parliament comes to a close, it's clear the fiery attacks from the end of the fall sitting are carrying over into this new year.
I would like to kick off this parliamentary session by urging all MPs to support the Fall Economic Statement Implementation Act.
In this session of Parliament, we will fight to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Poilievre has not presented one damn economic policy since he's been there.
Why does this government wait until things are at a breaking point before acting?
Okay, we're going to bring in the Monday Power Panel. 4 people who get along better than those 4 politicians we saw. Brad Levine is a former communications director for the NDP. Vandana Cotter is a former advisor to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Lisa Raitt is a former federal Conservative cabinet minister. And Rob Russo is the former CBC parliamentary bureau chief. Happy Monday, gang. Rob, I wonder what you made of the feel of what we saw today. We saw the Liberals send a letter to the Competition Bureau, tweak a housing loan announcement, and then the surprise announcement on what looks like a fairly indefinite delay of the expansion of MAID.
I thought the last one was one that a lot of people were waiting for and didn't expect to come so soon. It's clear, though, from what the health minister said, Mark Holland, that this is a temporary pause as far as the Liberals are concerned. It'll be interesting to see if this becomes an issue in an upcoming campaign. Canada has gone very, very quickly on this. So quickly, the health minister said that there hasn't been enough time to train people, to get people ready. But there seems to be a consensus among Liberals that mental health is health, and problems with mental health are just as severe as they are with physical health. Those of us who have familiarity with mental health problems in our families know that the suffering is real. But for now, it seems it's a bridge too far, but the bridge is still seen there in the distance as far as the Liberals were concerned. I know that the tone hasn't changed very much in the House of Commons.
And it likely won't.
No, but I was really struck. I did a little bit of work on Ed Broadbent's funeral yesterday, and I was really struck listening to people talk about what it was like when Broadbent was in the Commons, and I was here. I covered his campaign in 1988, the first big boy campaign I ever covered, and I was struck by the difference in tone between what we heard about the people who were involved in politics then and what we heard today. What we heard then was people attacked the ideas and not the man, or not the woman very often. You hear a lot of the attacks of the man and the woman now, and it couldn't be starker.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. So Vandana, we heard the pitch there from the finance minister and the deputy prime minister to try to get everyone to support the fall economic statement implementation measures. The Conservatives are not going to do that, and now we're getting kind of late word that the New Democrats are not going to support the Bill 234 as amended by the Senate and want to send it back with all the carve-outs for farmers that were there. It seems like it's going to be another tough legislative agenda for the Liberals.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything that's unexpected. I think given, they have a minority government, they have a supply and conflict agreement with the NDP, they will have to negotiate and work with them. But I don't think this is something that they wouldn't have anticipated. What they're going to do, though, is look to show that they can set the agenda, they can drive the agenda, and really focus on the issues that Canadians really care about. And they're going to plug up on this. They're going to talk about, similar at the end of the House of Commons, at the end of the session last year, talking about all the things that they're blocking. They're going to say, look, we're a government that's in charge. We're trying to address your needs, but look, these guys are blocking it. Help us. We want our politicians to come together and pass the fez so that we can deliver for you.
Lisa, I wonder what you thought of what Mr. Blanchet said today when asked about Pierre Poilievre, who's always trying to link the Bloc with the Liberals in Quebec, suggesting that there's an arrangement there like there is with the New Democrats in Parliament. And he used the D word. He said Mr. Poilievre hasn't tabled one damn economic policy. And he says he just likes the spotlight on him and he hopes there's a lot of mirrors in Stornoway because he likes seeing himself. It was an interesting move to hear the Bloc leader go so aggressively after the Conservative leader.
Probably in response to the fact that Pierre did take a few shots at the Bloc in his speech to his caucus the other day, and it got under the skin a little bit. Maybe they're feeling the heat in Quebec that the Conservatives are rallying in terms of what their support is going to be. I would just say that today is day one of a very long term that's going to take us all the way through to mid-June. And what happens today in the government side probably will change an awful lot between now and June. But I will tell you that I do not see the Conservatives veering 1 inch off of exactly what Pierre Poilievre talked about today in this clip that you provided. And you're going to hear a lot more of the same. And why is that? Because he has the luxury of being in opposition, and he doesn't have to produce any economic plans, any policies. It's not in his bailiwick. He doesn't have to do it until the actual election.
So, but Brad, there is the carve-out policy that they got through the House of Commons on carve-outs on the carbon tax for farmers, got to the Senate, was amended, sent back, and now New Democrats are telling me that they're going to vote to send it back to the Senate without the changes the Senate put in. So that's going to mean the New Democrats will be siding with the Conservatives on this and against the Liberals and potentially forcing another carve-out on carbon policy upon a minority government. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, hopefully successfully. I think it's good for the New Democrats to do that, to carve out some space for themselves in a very busy session. Again, we have, we're not going to have an election anytime soon. So the fact that the tone jumped from a very fiery tone at the end of the fall sitting to back where we were on day one suggests to me that this is going to be a long haul for our Liberal friends because they're going to get it from all ends. What's interesting is that we've had obviously minority parliaments before without such a formal confidence and supply agreement. The Liberals, Paul Martin had minorities and was brought down. Liberals don't have that luxury. They don't have a majority, but they're kind of stuck where they have to keep going unless they want to put a poison pill in this budget. Pharmacare could be that poison pill, like what John Turner, the finance minister, did in 1974, knowing full well that the New Democrats couldn't support that particular budget. So, we'll see. For Poilievre, he's getting very, very granular. He's going after the Bloc, as Lisa mentioned. He's also going after the NDP, which I don't think I've seen so fiercely in the air war. They're going after New Democrat seats in the West. They're going after Bloc seats in Quebec and Liberal seats throughout Ontario. So he's kind of signaled his full attack mode, and it'll be interesting to see how Singh responds. He's got to fight for those seats in northern British Columbia and throughout Western Canada. Yeah, in northern Ontario as well, and southwestern Ontario. But Vandana, just to go back to this, if the New Democrats do in fact side with the Conservatives to force yet another carve-out for farmers from the national carbon tax, how do you think the government responds to that? I mean, we saw the reporting and had confirmation from the Prime Minister. He was calling senators beforehand not to let this go through unamended, and now it's back in the House of Commons, and his supply and confidence agreement partner is not going to back him on it.
So I think that they're going to try to do the work now to make sure that they prevent that. If they have to go forward with it, I can see them making it work, making it temporary during this economic times, making it a temporary carve-out, trying to find ways which they can find a compromise of some sort, or they'll try to find if they have other votes in other places, whether they can partner with the Bloc or others. So I think they're prepared that this may come up more and more with the NDP. I mean, Jagmeet Singh is going to show that he's relevant, that he can force change. I mean, there's a problem as much as it works out. At the same time, he wants to prove that he's not just a lackey of the Liberal government. So this will be him trying to strong arm a little bit, but I think the government is prepared for that. And we'll try to find ways to show that, look, we can compromise. We still are going to stick with our plan, but maybe there's something we can do in the meantime that either is something that meets them halfway or work with other partners to make sure that can come through.
Rob, how do you think the government has to respond to that? I mean, we saw they didn't quite get the bump they wanted from the home heating oil carve-out, which came, a lot of pressure from the Atlantic Caucus there, and we saw what Ken McDonald did as a thank you. And what happens, what do they do if Parliament forces this on them? Well, we saw the beginning of the atomization of one of the main planks of the Liberal program in the carbon tax. And Mr. Poilievre has seen a vulnerability, and he's gone after more of it, and now it looks like Mr. Singh is going to jump in. It'll be interesting to see where the Bloc goes on this.
I too noted the attack on the bloc, and I've noticed in the last two speeches as well, the speech to caucus, which was open to us over the weekend, as well as Mr. Poilievre's news conference today, lengthy portions of the speech right off the top are in French. He is clearly making a play for what he believes to be that kind of nationalist bleu vote in Quebec that is soft. They believe that's soft. They know that there aren't votes for them on the island of Montreal, but in the regions of Quebec, there's a vote, and they're really going after it. He's not content with 40 or 42%. He's going after more votes, and they're there in those regions, those bleu regions of Quebec.
Right. Well, no, it's Pierre Poilievre versus the world when it comes to this electoral map. I mean, he's going after everybody's seats. There's no doubt about it. But Lisa, just if you're the government, you lost this vote on the carve-out for farmers already in Parliament, and now it's back again. And it sounds like they may very well lose it again unless the Senate amendments satisfy the Bloc Québécois to sort of change their thinking on this. How does the government respond to this? I mean, no, it's a minority situation and Parliament rules, but how do you think the government deals with this?
I don't know how they're going to deal with it, but I can tell you I can see two ways in which this causes them major headaches. The first one, of course, is the fact that the Supreme Court ruling really hinged on the fact that this carbon price was going to apply across the country. And it was a means of general application that nobody would be left out. And if anyone was left out, then the whole system would be in jeopardy. And I think that they have to have a serious look about how little things being chipped out little by little is going to impact that. The second thing that I think is extremely important with respect to the carbon tax is they put it in place in 2015. That's what they ran on. By the time they go to the polls in 2025, Canadians are going to be asking, other than the climate action payment I receive every month, what else have I accomplished? What has been accomplished with this climate tax? And if we're not seeing anything in terms of meaningful changes in their lives, then they're going to go after the whole policy of being ineffectual and having no impact. So this is a really important moment for them to figure out what to do next.
Okay, we want to switch gears just for a second because the other big thing that started today is the long-awaited inquiry into foreign electoral interference. And Commissioner Justice Marie-Josée Hogg has been asked to investigate the extent to which China, Russia, and other nations, notably India, interfered in the 2019 and 2021 federal elections. Now, as it gets underway, the Conservative Party is objecting to being denied what they claim are the same rights as the Liberals to cross-examine, witness, and view confidential submissions. Party lawyer Michael Wilson wrote to Justice Hogg saying the Conservative Party continues to have serious concerns regarding how the Commission has played out thus far. So, how does this bode for the integrity of the Commission that's just kicking off? Now, Brad, I want to start with you, but I should note the Liberals don't have standing here. The government has standing here. So if there's an election tomorrow and this inquiry continues, whoever is the government at the end of the election has standing. The Liberal Party does not have standing, though various politicians have. So we have this criticism from the Conservatives. We have groups such as the Uyghur Rights Project talking about pulling out if they don't deal with their concerns about Michael Chen and Senator Wu and Han Dong going forward. What kind of a start do you think this is for the foreign interference inquiry?
Well, on the Conservatives asking and being denied full standing, it is the government, not the Liberals, in there, and much to New Democrats and Conservative, and I guess the Bloc too, the Liberals have the most seats in the House of Commons. They get to form a government, and so to the victor go the spoils. And one of the benefits of being in government is that you would get full standing in this inquiry. Trudeau made a lot of mistakes at the beginning, but it looks, I think it's up and running now. But I don't think that the criticism from the Conservatives that to besmirch the whole process hopefully will not stand. We have to get on with this. Canada has to do stuff. It has to build things. We're having trouble getting the big stuff right. Foreign interference is a credible risk for our democracy. And we can't even get a bloody inquiry going. It's rather frustrating to watch. So I think for most Canadians, they just want to see the process unfold a little bit and not politicize it like Poilievre is trying to do.
Vandana, the political parties are going to play politics, but here you have, an extremely vulnerable diaspora group in China, the Uyghurs, expressing deep concerns over the way this is going to go and what they consider to be the collision of what they want out of this versus the rights of individual politicians who have been accused of having, formal or informal links with China. What does that do to this process going forward? And here it is on day one, and by day three, the Uyghurs could withdraw.
Well, that's the thing. I think This public inquiry was thought about, so the government's something unique, where over the summer, all parties came together to decide Justice Hogue was the right person. And on day one, you see partisan attacks being thrown at the process. And this is not what Canadians want. They want to get on with they want to get on with the inquiry. They want to get to the bottom of it, but also we'll have to see what comes out of it. I think just because you hire, or just because we have a impartial process, does not mean, if she disagrees with you or if you don't agree with it, you can do it respectfully, but it doesn't mean you tear down the system. Now, this public inquiry was given to Justice Hogue. She has to carry it out. But what I noticed, one thing in her ruling in December is this, that she said she won't let, essentially, that the public inquiry be a playground for political football. And I think people have to reflect on that, and that she's going to be strict with that. So I think it won't be everything to everyone, but this is what inquiry is. It's not supposed to just answer everyone's, and how they want it to be done. It's going to be up to Justice Hogue to carry out this process. And that process is going to be something that everyone has to agree on. Right.
So Lisa, we ended up here after the special rapporteur process kind of blew up catastrophically for the government on this. The political parties are going to do their thing, but on the diaspora group concerns, how do you balance that?
I'm not going to criticize the judge in her ruling, because it's her ruling and I respect her ruling for what it is. If I were to apply a political lens, though, I would ask myself the question, would I rather have people inside my process that I can control the questions of, meaning that you can roll things out of order, you can temper it down, or do I want them watching from the outside so that every day they say, well, these questions weren't good enough, here are the questions I would have asked, and then continuously raising, I guess, some kind of question about whether or not everything was being covered in this process. And I think equally, both outside parties as well as the Uyghurs, like you pointed out, they will have the ability to say, look, you didn't ask about this, 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 and this. And she could have included everybody. It would have been a pain. She would have had to manage more for sure. But at the very least, you would have stopped it from occurring outside the process and keep it all in the House.
Right. So Rob, the parties have intervener capacity, right? They don't have the full standing, which automatically grants them certain rights. But the judge did say today that from time to time she may allow interveners to have access to information, to cross-examine witnesses as necessary. Shouldn't that be enough to satisfy the political parties, considering they all agreed to this process as the path forward after saying the government's plan?
It depends. If the inquiry manages to answer the central three questions, what did the government know, when did it know it, and how did it react to attempts to influence the elections in 2019 and 2021. If it gets at those answers, then the process will have been vindicated. It may seem strange to some people that the Conservatives don't have standing, but Michael Chong has standing.
Right.
It seems strange, though, that the one person, Michael Chong, and I think Jenny Kwan as well, who were threatened, who targeted, that their parties don't have standing, but they do have standing. If you can answer those three questions, the process will be vindicated. But I caution people to remember, the terms of reference are looking at those two elections. They're not going to tell us. The inquiry probably isn't going to get at whether or not they were targeted and how they were targeted, because that's not part of the terms of reference. It might be for Mr. Chong to try and get at that information by asking government witnesses, but the judge may end up ruling those questions out of order.
But one key part of the terms of reference is that it can go where she wants it to go
That's
as well, right? So she does, Brad, she does have latitude. And we saw, when she requested, for example, information and documents on India, that she's exercising that latitude. And today, the assurances she tried to give people concerned that from time to time, I'll let people without full standing participate in a more meaningful way if it makes sense to their individual role in all of this. Do you think that should be enough, or it depends how she does it, I guess?
Yeah, it does depend on how she does it, but it should be enough, because if a political party or a outside group outside of the government, want to kind of help, not steer it, but maybe kind of direct it from afar. It has that ability because she has the freedom to. She's not confined by rigid terms. She can. So there is an opportunity for, I guess, gentle persuasion about where she might go, what she might what she might look into, or obviously who can participate. So for the Conservatives and other political parties, again, you made the point, but they do have intervener status, just not full standing. So it's not like they're shut out of the process altogether, and there is the ability to, through persuasion, draw the justice's attention to particular places. And I think that provides, I think, adequate credibility to Rob's point, to make sure that this process is seen to be credible by the public.
Vandana, a quick last word to you. Do you think that's enough to assuage some of the concerns being raised on day one?
I think this is the issue we've always had with the public inquiry. At the end of the day, there's only so much the public's going to be able to know. And I think there are some people who will not be satisfied with it. It doesn't mean that the process wasn't correct. It doesn't mean it was right. But it means that it doesn't mean it was not right. Sorry. But it more means that there's some information the public will just not be subject to, and there's answers that will have to be internal to the government and top secret clearance, and not them. And we knew that from the beginning, which is what was the issue with the public inquiry to begin with. On one last point on diaspora groups, the one thing I'll just remind everyone is that they are not uniform. Some people will feel very threatened by this. Some people will be worried about increased stigma by this. We can't, just because one group pulls out or feels unhappy does not mean that's how diaspora groups across the country feel.
No, that's a very good point. And if I can indulge one last quick topic and one last quick question, and Lisa, this is to you, because your name's coming up a lot about a suddenly open seat in the Ontario legislature. Any interest? You thinking about running provincially, or is it too soon to say anything one way or another? No? No. Okay. All right.
Thanks for sandbagging me, though, David.
Oh, I'm sorry. I figured. I read it in the Toronto Star, so I figured I'd ask you about it. All right. My apologies there, Lisa. All right. I want to thank the Power Panel: Vandana Cotter, Brad Levine, Lisa Raitt, and Rob Russo. Thanks so much, gang.
Thanks, David.